Sometimes I hear people say the Bible is just another book, and I have to wonder, what are they talking about? Because the Bible may be a lot of things, but one thing it certainly isn't is just another book. For instance, did you know the Bible was the very first book ever published on a printing press? Way back in the 1400s, Johann Gutenberg wanted to have for people to have access to the Bible. He took a wine press and turned it into a printing press, and thus invented the printing press in order to print the Bible. As a matter of fact, what Time magazine would call the greatest invention of the whole last millennia was done, the invention of the printing press, in order to print the Bible. Secondly, after that, the Bible's continued now to be the most published book in the history of the world. It has been, the Bible's publication is measured not in terms of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, even hundreds of millions. The Bible's actually been translated into, published billions of times. 1930 was its first billion, and since then, about 1 billion copies of the Bible are printed and sold about every 4 to 5 years. Well, not only that, it's the most widely translated book in the history of the world. Most other books have been hardly translated at all. Shakespeare, for instance, has been translated into less than 50 languages. The Quran, less than 100 languages. But the Bible, into over 2,100 languages and dialects, and continuing to grow. The Bible's the most translated book in the history of the world. The Bible is a book of science. Far from what we have been told, that science and religion can't mix, they conflict, the great scientists of the modern scientific era, the vast majority of them were inspired by the writings and teachings of the Bible. They believed in God. They believed in Genesis. They believed in the Bible. And they were inspired by what the Bible taught to do their research to help mankind and to greatly advance the scientific understanding. The Bible has been at the forefront of most great social movements of our time, whether it's the abolition of slavery, the advancement of higher education, literacy movements, efforts to help the poor and oppressed. Wherever you see these movements around the world really growing, you can trust that it was people who believe the Bible and are obeying the Bible that are leading these things. The Bible's been the foundation of the great political movements throughout time. Indeed, the founding of our country was inspired greatly by people who were believers in the Bible and inspired to believe that freedom was the gift of God. More recently, even the fall of the communist Eastern European nations can thank those who believe the Bible and got the message of freedom from reading the Bible. And then finally, the Bible has been the source of our moral and ethical code here in the whole Western world. Whether it's the beauty of the 10 Commandments, the golden rule to do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, the love chapter, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, that is perhaps the most beautiful description of love ever given, or the Sermon on the Mount where Jesus talks about the ethical way that we are to live and interact with others. The Bible has been the basis of the moral code throughout Western civilization. You might call the Bible a lot of things, but one thing you can't say is that it's just another book.